To understand the cosmic horror and metaphysical transcendence that defines the endgame of Earthbound, we first have to understand the aggressive normalcy of its beginning. Before Ness becomes a messianic figure challenging the embodiment of evil, he is defined entirely by what he is not. He is not a warrior, he is not a chosen one yet, and he is not a wizard. He is a 13-year-old boy living in the suburbs. This distinction is vital. In high fantasy, the hero is often introduced amidst tragedy or destiny. In Earthbound, the hero is introduced amidst Onett. Part 1. Just a kid from Onett, who Ness is before the meteor. Let us look at the archetype of the every boy. Ness's design is a masterclass in deceptive simplicity. At a glance, he appears to be a generic placeholder, a blank slate onto which the player projects their own identity. He stands at roughly 150 centimeters, adorned in the uniform of the universal 1990s child, a yellow and blue striped shirt, denim shorts, sneakers, a backpack, and a sideways baseball cap. This aesthetic choice is deliberate lore. Visually, Ness draws a direct lineage to the protagonists of the Peanuts comic strips, specifically Charlie Brown. He represents the every boy, a symbol of unexceptional childhood. His weapon of choice, a baseball bat, cements this. Unlike the Master Sword or the Buster Sword, Ness's weapon is a toy. It is a piece of sporting equipment repurposed for survival. This suggests that Ness's journey is not about gaining martial prowess, but about the corruption of his childhood innocence. His toys are becoming weapons because his world is becoming a war zone. We know from the game's prologue and manual that Ness lives in Onett, a town in the country of Eagleland. Eagleland is creator Shigesato Itoi's parody of the United States. It is a funhouse mirror reflection of Western culture viewed through a Japanese lens. It is a land of burgers, freedoms, and consumerism. Within this setting, Ness is established as having a distinct age, 13. This puts him precisely on the precipice of adolescence. He is old enough to leave the house alone, but young enough to still be treated as a child by every adult he meets. His family dynamic provides the control group for the experiment, that is the rest of the game. We have Mom, the eternal anchor of safety who cures homesickness with a favorite meal. We have Tracy, the younger sister, who handles logistics and storage, representing the supportive sibling dynamic. We have King, the dog who, in a brilliant piece of anti-heroism, refuses to join the adventure early on because he is too cowardly. And then there's Dad. The lore surrounding Ness's father is arguably the most fascinating aspect of his pre-adventure biography. He is never seen, we heard via the telephone. He represents the absent provider, a trope common in both Japanese salaryman culture and American latchkey kid culture. However, he is not estranged. He is the mechanism of salvation. By saving the game, he records Ness's existence. By depositing money into an ATM, he fuels the journey. The lore implication here is that while Ness provides the physical courage, his father provides the societal infrastructure that allows a child to survive in the world. Ness is not an orphan of destiny. He is a well-supported suburban kid with a generous allowance. If we treat the town of Onett as an archaeological site, the layout tells us exactly who Ness is. The town is a closed circle, geographically isolated by roadblocks and police, representing the limited worldview of a child. Consider Ness's room. It is the sanctuary. It contains the standard artifacts of a 90s childhood: a chaotic desk, a purely decorative bookshelf, and a stereo. But stepping outside, we see how the town mirrors Ness's internal state before the meteor. The library represents knowledge Ness has not yet attained. He didn't visit, but the information is often too dry or irrelevant to his immediate needs as a child. The arcade represents the allure of rebellion. It is the hangout of the sharks, the local delinquents. Ness's inevitable confrontation with them is not a battle of good versus evil. but a rite of passage. There's the good kids standing up to the bullies. Then there's the police station. In most role playing games, guards are protectors. Internet, the police are obstructionists. They block roads for arbitrary reasons, such as aiming for a world record and roadblock closing. This paints a picture of Nisa's relationship with authority. Adults are not helpful, they are hurdles to be navigated. And the drugstore serves as the center of commerce. Ness consumes junk food like burgers and fries because that is the fuel of his demographic. The environmental storytelling of Onett suggests a sleepy, safe existence. The sun is bright, the colors are vivid pastels, and the music is upbeat. There is no looming threat of war. There is no ancient prophecy recited in the town square. The dialogue of the non-player characters reflects this. They discuss the mundane, celebrity crushes, the difficulty of homework, and the annoying behavior of the neighbors. When neighbors speak to Ness, they do not say, "Help us, warrior." They say things like, "You are the neighbor's boy, aren't you?" Or they say, "Be careful playing outside." This dialogue is crucial lore evidence. It confirms that up until the very second the meteor crashes, Ness has displayed zero signs of being special. He is liked, he is polite, but he is fundamentally ordinary. There is no chosen one aura radiating off him. He is simply the boy next door. Despite the aggressive normalcy, there are two distinct threads of lore that hint at Ness's dormant potential. His obsession with baseball and the unexplained existence of PSI. Baseball is more than a hobby for Ness. It is his primary lens for interpreting conflict. His stats are defined by guts. His critical hits are smashes. In the EarthBound lore, this obsession grounds his supernatural abilities. When Ness eventually taps into cosmic power, he does not channel it through a wand or a staff. He channels it through the muscle memory of a swing. This suggests that Ness's power is intuitive, not learned. He imposes his own understanding of the world, which is sports, onto the chaos of magic. Then there is PSI, or psionics. Unlike other party members who might learn techniques through study or technology, Ness's PSI is innately tied to his identity. His signature move, PSI Rockin', is fueled by his personal passion. The lore question here is, did Ness know he had PSI before the meteor? The evidence suggests likely not, or at least not fully. There are no mentions of Ness moving objects with his mind or reading thoughts prior to the incident. However, the game implies that the potential was always there, waiting for a catalyst. The connection to his favorite thing implies that his power comes from his love for the world. In a sense, his psychic power is a weaponized form of his own enthusiasm and will. The fact that he learns abilities like life up and healing reinforces his role not as a destroyer, but as a preserver of the status quo. He heals the world back to the normalcy he loves. To fully grasp the Just a Kid lore, we must look at the author, Shigesato Itoi. Itoi stated in interviews that he wanted EarthBound, or Mother 2, to feel like a playground rather than a movie. He did not want the player to watch a hero. He wanted the player to be the hero. This is a silent protagonist, but not an empty one. He is silent because he is listening. Itoi designed a pre-meteor sequence to establish a sense of home that the player would fight to protect. If Ness started as a vagrant or a soldier, the destruction of Onett would mean less. Walking his dog, talking to his mom, and sleeping in his own bed, we establish a baseline of the real world. Ness represents the grounded anchor. As the game progresses and the lore spirals into aliens, dreamscapes, and metaphysical nightmares, Ness remains visually consistent. He never upgrades to power armor. He never changes his striped shirt. He remains, stubbornly, a kid. This is the core thesis for this era of his life. Ness is the control variable. The universe changes around him, becoming increasingly hostile and bizarre, but Ness holds on to his identity as a boy from Onett. Before the sky falls, Ness is a masterpiece of mundane storytelling. He is defined by suburban isolation, domestic security, and a relatability meant to mirror the player's own memories of childhood. He is not yet a hero. He is just a kid who has been woken up by a loud noise outside. And in the lore of EarthBound, that transition from the boy in bed to the boy standing at the crater is the most important moment in history. It is the moment the ordinary meets the eldritch. Part 2. The Chosen Boy Wakes Up. Ness's journey through EarthBound's story. The inciting incident of EarthBound is a masterclass in tonal dissonance. It begins not with a dragon attack or a kingdom in flames, but with a noise complaint in the suburbs. The meteor crash in the hills of Onett is the precise moment the genre invades Ness's life. Until this point, his world is governed by the laws of a slice-of-life simulation. Bedtimes, cookies, and annoying neighbors. The meteor shatters this simulation, introducing a cosmic threat that the adults are woefully ill-equipped to handle. Observe the police response. The Onett police force does not investigate the extraterrestrial object. They set up roadblocks. They respond to an apocalypse with bureaucracy. This leaves the investigation to Ness, who sneaks out in his pajamas. This is the first test of his agency. He meets Lear Exaggerate, a treasure hunter who represents the selfish pursuit of the unknown. Lear wants the meteor for profit. Ness, conversely, is drawn to it by intuition. Then, the narrative pivot. Pokemensch. Pokey is the catalyst. He is too cowardly to face the music alone, using Ness as a shield against the night. At the crash site, we meet Buzz Buzz. Here, the game subverts the trope of the wise old wizard. The exposition dump, the prophecy that foretells the fall of the universal cosmic destroyer, Gigas, is delivered by a dung beetle. Or rather, an alien warrior in the form of an insect. Buzz Buzz delivers the apple of enlightenment's prophecy. 3 boys and a girl will save the existence. Know the phrasing. It is not an army. It is not a government. It is children. This confirms Ness's status not just as a participant, but as a messianic figure. He is the chosen boy. The tragedy of this scene is immediate. Buzz Buzz, a warrior from the future, is unceremoniously killed by a neighbor's wife who thinks he is a common pest. The grand mentor figure is swatted. This leaves Ness with the burden of knowledge and 0 guidance. To defeat Gigas, Ness is given the Sound Stone. This is the most misunderstood mechanic in EarthBound's lore. It is often viewed as a simple fetch quest, collect 8 badges to open the door. But a deep dive reveals the Sound Stone is a mechanism for psychological integration. The Sanctuary's Giant Step, Lilliput Steps, Milky Well, Raining Circle, Magnet Hill, Pink Cloud, Looming Hall, and Fire Spring are not random dungeons. They are your sanctuary. The possessive your is critical. These are locations where the Earth's energy resonates specifically with Ness's psychosphere. When Ness reaches the sanctuary, he does not find a weapon. He records a melody. But look at the text that accompanies each recording. It is never about the location itself. It is a flashback. At Giant Step, he sees a small, cute puppy. At Lilliput Steps, he remembers a baby's red cap. At Milky Well, he recalls his mother's whistle. The Soundstone is not recording music. It is reconstructing Ness's fragmented identity. It is archiving the innocence he is forced to lose by growing up too fast. He is weaponizing his own nostalgia to stabilize his mind against the psychic assault of Gigas. The journey outward begins in Onett, which serves as a microcosm of the war to come. Ness must dismantle the local hierarchy before challenging the cosmic one. His first true antagonist is Frank Fly, the leader of the Sharks. Frank is a relic of 1950s Americana, a greaser with a switchblade. By defeating him, Ness symbolically overthrows the old cool to become the new hero. He proves to the adults, the mayor, and the police chief that their authority is obsolete. The scene where he fights 5 police officers in a row to lift the roadblock is not just a gag. It is a declaration of martial law by a child. The arrival in Twassen marks the shift from isolation to community. This is where he meets Paula. In the lore of the Chosen Four, Paula is the heart. She's the first person to recognize Ness not as a neighbor or a nuisance, but as a savior. Her telepathic plea is what draws him to Happy Happy Village. When he rescues her, she entrusts him with the Franklin badge. This transfer of an item is the narrative equivalent of a knight pledging their sword. Paula validates Ness's role as the leader. She does not try to usurp him. She amplifies him. From this point on, Ness is no longer fighting for survival. He is fighting for her. As the party expands to include Jeff and Threed and Pooh and Summers, the environments grow increasingly hostile to sanity. Threed introduces the horror element. Zombies and ghosts entrap the children. Saturn Valley introduces the surreal, a hidden civilization of innocent, incomprehensible beings. But the true test of Ness's psyche occurs in Fourside, the Big Apple of Eagle Land. Fourside is the pinnacle of capitalist excess, but its dark reflection, Moonside, is a deconstruction of reality itself. In Moonside, yes means no. Enemies are abstract art pieces like Robopump or abstract art. This section is crucial lore-wise because it serves as training for the final battle. Gygas is an entity beyond human comprehension. Moonside forces Ness to navigate a world where logic is inverted. If he broke down here, he would never survive the Devil's Machine. He maintains his stoicism, navigating the neon nightmare with the same blank-faced determination he held in Onett. Throughout this chaos, we must analyze Ness's leadership style. He is a silent protagonist, yes, but the world revolves around his gravity. NPCs do not address the group, they address Ness. Apple Kid, a genius inventor who rivals Dr. And Onett pledges his loyalty specifically to Ness, ignoring the other children. The Runaway Five, a band constantly in debt, repeatedly saves the party, citing their gratitude to that boy. Even Everdread, the crime lord of Berglund Park, entrusts his final treasure, a poetic, haiku-written will, to Ness before vanishing. Why? Because Ness represents the every boy anchor. In a world full of eccentrics, wizards, and geniuses, Ness is the stable center. He listens. He endures. His leadership isn't defined by giving orders, but by being the one who takes the first step into the dark. The camera literally centers on him. If he falls in battle, the screen turns red and the music distorts. The world creates a direct link between Ness's consciousness and the player's interface. If Ness dies, the simulation begins to collapse. This leads us to the grim conclusion of the physical journey, the phase distorter. After traveling to the lost underworld, Dr. Antoinette reveals the terrifying truth. Gygas is attacking from the past. To fight him, they must travel back in time. But organic matter is destroyed by time travel. The implication is horrific. The Chosen One prophecy requires a suicide mission. To save the universe, Ness must agree to have his soul ripped from his body and placed into a robotic shell. This scene is the darkest in the Mother series. Here it is, the ship of Theseus paradox weaponized. Dr. Andonets asks, "Are you willing?" The silence of the children is deafening. They are not just giving up their lives, they are giving up their humanity. The visual of the four robots standing next to the piles of the children's discarded clothes, Ness's cap, Paula's dress, is a funeral rite. The boy from Onett, the one who loved baseball and burgers, effectively dies in that laboratory. The entity that steps into the phase distorter is something else, a vessel of pure will, stripped of flesh, blood, and the comfort of the every boy identity. He has sacrificed the very normalcy he fought to protect. Part 3. The Power Inside His Head. Ness's PSI, Sanctuaries, and Magicant. If the baseball bat represents Ness's connection to the physical world of childhood, his PSI represents his awakening to the metaphysical. In the broader landscape of role-playing games, magic is often treated as a commodity, spell you buy from a shop or learn from a scroll. In EarthBound, PSI isn't a tool. It is a biological and spiritual extension of the user's personality. To understand Ness, we must deconstruct his kit. Unlike Paula, who serves as the party's black mage wielding elemental forces like fire, ice, and thunder, or Pooh, who utilizes the martial discipline of Starstorm, Ness's offensive magic is entirely unique. He does not control the elements, he controls will. His signature move is officially known as PSI Rockin', though in the lore of the interface it is named after the player's favorite thing. This is a brilliant piece of meta-narrative. If the player chose gaming, Ness is hitting enemies with the concept of gaming. If they chose love, he is blasting them with the raw force of love. In the original Japanese script, this ability is called PSI Kiai. Kiai is a martial arts term referring to the shout that converges all of one's energy into a single moment. This implies that Ness's primary weapon is his own fighting spirit. It is non-elemental psychokinetic shockwave. It is the weaponization of his enthusiasm. Then there is PSI Flash. This is perhaps the most esoteric ability in his arsenal. While Paula burns and freezes, Ness illuminates. PSI Flash has random effects. It can make enemies cry, feel numb, or instantly cease to exist. This aligns Ness with the concept of the sun, a force that can bring clarity or destruction. It creates chaos not through violence, but through overwhelming sensory input. However, Ness is not just a damage dealer. He is the party's primary paladin. He is the only character who learns the highest levels of life up. While he is the destined leader, his mechanical role is often to sustain others. His power is grounded in preservation. He heals the world back to the normalcy he loves. This creates a gameplay loop where Ness absorbs the trauma of the party, using his own psychic energy to keep the team standing against cosmic horrors. This power does not grow in a vacuum. It is intrinsically tied to the 8 sanctuaries. Throughout the game, Ness visits these locations, Giant Step, Milky Well, Pink Cloud, to record melodies into the Soundstone. He is the only party member who can do this. Paula can sense the locations, but only Ness resonate with them. Why? Because the sanctuaries are not merely power-ups. They are geographical triggers for regression and integration. The text associated with each melody is not ancient lore or prophecy. It is memory. A small puppy, your mother's cooking, a baby in a red cap, the warm breath of the earth. As Ness travels across Eagle Land, he is physically moving forward, but psychically, he is traveling backward. He is reconnecting with his infancy. He is remembering the sensation of being loved and protected before he had to become a soldier. The Soundstone is not recording music. It is reconstructing Ness's fragmented identity. It is archiving the innocence he is forced to lose by growing up too fast. Once all 8 melodies are collected, the game shifts location entirely. Ness falls unconscious and wakes up in Magicant. In the first Mother game Earthbound Beginnings, Magicant was a realm created by the consciousness of Queen Mary. But in Earthbound, Magicant is explicitly solipsistic. It is a world located entirely inside Ness's head. It is a Jungian landscape populated by his memories, his subconscious desires, and his repressed fears. The topography of Magicant is telling. The ground is soft and organic. The vegetation is bizarre. The NPCs are people Ness misses his mother, his sister, and strange abstractions of people he has met. It is here that we find the Flying Men. The Flying Men are the most tragic figures in Ness's psyche. They represent his courage. There are 5 of them living in a house in his mind. They offer to help him, but they are fragile. When a flying man dies in battle, he does not respawn. A grave appears in Ness's mental garden. As the player pushes Ness to be braver, he is literally killing off parts of his own innocence. He is using up his reserve of spirit. The graves serve as a permanent reminder that trauma leaves scars on the mind, even if the body is healed. The journey through Magicant leads to the Sea of Eden. This is the core of Ness's consciousness, a swirl of cosmic energy representing the Ad. Here, he must confront the gatekeeper of his own potential. Ness's nightmare. The visual language here is critical. The nightmare takes the form of the Many statue, the golden idol of corruption Ness has been chasing the entire game, but the real statue was destroyed in Foresight. This is a mental projection. The Many statue amplifies evil. By appearing in his own mind, it implies that Ness is harboring something dark. What is Ness's nightmare? It is likely not evil in the villainous sense, but doubt, selfishness, fear, or the desire to remain a child forever. It represents the shadow self. To become the vessel capable of stopping Gigas, Ness cannot just be a good boy. He must acknowledge and conquer his own darkness. He must destroy the part of him that is susceptible to Gigas' influence. When the nightmare is defeated, the result is one of the most satisfying moments in gaming history. The game says Ness's soundstone fell silent. It isn't broken, it is integrated. Ness absorbs the power of the earth. The level up screen that follows is absurd. Ness realized the power of PSI Rockin' Omega. Ness's guts went up by 80. Maximum HP went up by 200. This massive stat spike isn't just a reward for grinding, it is the quantification of enlightenment. Ness has achieved what Carl Jung called individuation. He has unified his conscious and subconscious minds. He is no longer just a kid with a bat. He is a fully realized psychic entity vibrating at a frequency that matches the universe itself. We must also contextualize this within the franchise's lore. In Mother 1, it is established that PSI is an alien ability. Ninten's grandfather, George, was abducted by aliens and stole the secrets of PSI to bring back to Earth. I guess the alien raised by George's wife Maria used PSI as his birthright and humanity's use of it as theft. Ness is the culmination of George's legacy. He is a human who has not only learned PSI, but mastered it to a degree that threatens the aliens themselves. I guess hates Ness, not just because he is a hero, but because Ness represents the successful hybridization of human heart and alien power. Ness proves that humanity can handle the power of the earth. So the power inside his head is not just about dealing bigger damage numbers. It is the narrative conclusion of his character arc. The boy who was woken up by a meteor has finally woken up to himself. Magicant is the moment the story and the gameplay finally sync up. The other boy is gone. The savior has arrived. Part 4. Against the Cosmic Horror. Ness, Gygus, and Porky. We have arrived at the terminus. The journey that began with a meteor crash in a suburban backyard ends in a place that exists outside of time. The Cave of the Past is not just a final dungeon, it is a narrative void. By transferring their souls into robotic bodies, Ness and his friends have stripped away the aesthetics of the childhood adventure. There are no more burgers, no more bicycles, and no more bright blue skies. There is only gray rock and the pulse of something tentatively wrong. This is where the prophecy, delivered by Buzz in the prologue, finds its resolution. But the reality of the confrontation is far more harrowing than the insect god could have communicated to a 13-year-old boy. Ness is not here to fight a monster. He is here to euthanize a concept. Before Ness to face the cosmic threat, he must face his shadow, Porky Minch. If Ness is the every boy who rose to the occasion, Porky is the every boy who rotted from the inside out. They share a hometown, an age, and a demographic. But when Ness chose selflessness at every turn, helping the runaway five, curing the shy Tendas, rescuing Paula, Porky chose opportunism. Let us track Porky's trajectory. In Onett, he was a coward who used Ness as a bodyguard. In Happy Happy Village, he aligned himself with the cult because it gave him a position of power. In Forside, he became the corporate consultant for Mayor Monotoli, trading his childhood for a suit and a helicopter. He fails upwards. He represents a very specific kind of human corruption, the banality of evil. He is a wizard. He is a brat with power. In this final battle, Porky pilots a spider-like getcha. He mocks Ness, not with the grand speeches of a villain, but with the petty jeers of a bully. He claims Gygus is an almighty idiot who has lost his mind. This is crucial lore. Porky is not possessed. He is not mind-controlled. He is fully aware that Gygus is a mindless force of destruction, and he is steering it. He represents the terrifying reality that cosmic evil requires a human interface to be truly effective. Porky is the user interface for Gygus's operating system of 8. And carries Gygus. When the battle begins, Gygus is contained within the Devil's Machine. The visuals here are a disturbing face that looks strikingly like a fetus, trapped in a metallic womb. This imagery has sparked decades of debate. Is Gygus a literal fetus? Is this a representation of aborted potential? Creator Shigesato Itoi has cited a traumatic childhood memory of accidentally walking into the wrong movie theater and witnessing a scene of assault in a film called The Military Policeman and the Dismembered Beauty. He described it as a mixture of atrocity and eroticism that his child brain could not process. Shigesato is the manifestation of that trauma. He is something that should not be seen by children. When Porky turns off the machine, the game breaks. The background becomes a red, undulating nightmare. The text box reads, "You cannot grasp the true form of Gygas's attack." This line is the thesis statement of the cosmic horror genre. Ness, who is leveled up, gained PSI Omega, and conquered his own nightmare, is now facing something he cannot grasp. It is legally outside the rules of the RPG he is playing. His stats do not matter here. You cannot hit a concept with a baseball bat. Gygas's dialogue is fragmented. Ness, I feel good. It hurts. I'm happy. This is not the dialogue of a conqueror. It is the dialogue of a mind in total collapse. Gigas is not evil in the sense of a mustache-twirling villain. He is a being of infinite PSI capability who has lost the capacity for reason. He is pure, unfiltered emotion, pain, pleasure, and sorrow blended into a static noise that destroys the universe. He is the result of power without the humanity that Ness retrieved from the sanctuaries. Mechanically, this part of the fight is a desperate stalemate. Ness can heal, but it cannot win. The attack command is futile. The infinite power Ness gained in Magicant, the unification of his conscious and subconscious, is barely enough to keep him alive, but it is just enough to secure victory. The narrative point here is sharp. Individual strength, no matter how great, has a ceiling. The hero's journey ends here, at a wall of red static. The solution lies not with Ness, but with Paula, and specifically the Pray command. Throughout the game, her was a random number generator, sometimes healing, sometimes reviving. Now, it is weaponized connection. When Paula prays, the game cuts away from the darkness. We see the Dr. Onetts and the Apple Kid. We see the Mr. Saturns. We see Ness's mother. This is the reversal of the spirit bomb trope. Ness is not gathering energy to fire a laser. The people are not sending power to Ness. They are praying for his safety. Their consciousness is piercing the dime stream. The every boy Ness spent the entire game building relationships, not as a king, but as a polite kid who helped people. Now, that social currency pays out. The world survives because Ness was kind to it. But the ninth prayer is the meta-narrative climax. Paula's voice reaches out of the Super Nintendo and addresses the player directly. Please, give us strength. If you entered your real name at the start of the game, it appears here. The damage dealt by this prayer is catastrophic to Gigas. Why? Because the player exists in a dimension higher than Gigas. Gigas destroys the fiction, but the player is the reality. By acknowledging a player, EarthBound posits that the only thing stronger than cosmic horror is the person holding the controller. We, the observers, validate Ness's existence. We collapse the waveform. Gigas is defeated not by PSI Rockin', but by empathy and external observation. The cosmic horror is unmade. However, the human horror survives. In the aftermath, Gigas fades, but Porky remains. He does not repent. He does not die. He uses the last of his power to warp away through the spankety, I'll be seeing you. This is a chilling subversion of the happy ending. The mindless monster is gone, but the malicious human escapes. Porky's arc is not finished. He falls through the cracks of time, eventually landing in the era of Mother 3. There, he will no longer be a sidekick. He will age centuries, trapped in a spider mech life support system, becoming the pig king who industrializes a fantasy world. Ness's story ends with the defeat of Gigas. He returns to being a boy, but the consequences of his era, specifically the escape of Pork, ripple forward to destroy the life of the next protagonist, Lucas. Ness saved the universe, but he couldn't save his neighbor. In the end, Ness's arc is defined by this triad. Gigas was the corruption of power, Porky was the corruption of innocence, and Ness was the balance, the human spirit that stood between them, armed with a baseball bat and a prayer. He stared into the abyss stared back and screamed, and Ness simply refused to blink. Part 5. The boy everyone remembers. Just after EarthBound. There is a profound irony in the legacy of Ness. To a significant portion of the gaming population, He is not the savior of humanity who dismantled a cosmic horror in 1994. He is the annoying child who spams PK Fire on the Final Destination stage. Ness's afterlife is arguably more famous than his life. While EarthBound was a commercial failure in the West upon release, buried by a bizarre marketing campaign that claimed, "This game stinks," Ness survived the obscurity. He did not survive because of a sequel, or a cartoon, or a line of action figures. He survived because of Masahiro Sakurai. When the original Super Smash Bros. Was in development for the Nintendo 64, the roster was intended to be the all-stars of Nintendo. Mario, Link, Samus, Fox, these were titans. And then there was the 12th unlockable character, Ness. In 1999, including Ness was a baffling decision for Western audiences. EarthBound had sold poorly and was already fading from memory. Yet, by securing that spot in the original 12, Ness was canonized as a pillar of Nintendo history, standing shoulder to shoulder with Mario. This single decision is likely the only reason the Mother franchise is remembered globally today. It forced millions of children to ask the question, who is this kid with a baseball bat? However, the Ness we see in Smash is a historical revision, a fabrication. If we look at the lore deep dive, the Smash Bros. Version of Ness is not Ness at all. It's a composite of the entire Chosen 4 party. In EarthBound, Ness is primarily a support healer and a kinetic physical fighter. He learns PSI Rockin' and PSI Flash. He never learns PK Fire, he never learns PK Thunder, and he certainly never learns PK Starstorm. Those moves belong to Paula and Pooh, respectively. Sakurai and the developers recognized that a character who only heals and swings a bat would not function in a fighting game, so they stripped the abilities from his friends and crafted them onto him. In doing so, Smash Bros. Turned Ness into a museum exhibit of his own game. He wields the yo-yo, a niche weapon in the RPG. He wears the Franklin badge and he casts his friend's spells. He became a living avatar for the entire EarthBound experience. He is not just Ness, he is the ambassador of Eagleland. This legacy was nearly extinguished in 2001. During the development of Super Smash Bros. Melee, the plan was to cut Ness entirely. He was to be replaced by Lucas, the protagonist of the upcoming Mother 3. At the time, Mother 3 was slated for the Nintendo 64 disk drive. But history took a strange turn. The N64 version of Mother 3 was cancelled. Because Lucas's game no longer existed, Sakurai scrambled to reinstate Ness into Melee. Ness survived by sheer luck of development hell. By the time Brawl arrived, Mother 3 had finally released on Game Boy Advance, allowing both Ness and Lucas to coexist. But that near-death experience highlights just how fragile Ness's status was. He is the survivor of both Gigas and corporate cancellation. The Smash effect did more than just keep the character alive. It retroactively elevated EarthBound to the status of a holy text for indie developers. Because Ness was constantly visible in Nintendo's biggest marketing vehicle, a generation of players went back to play the SNES original on emulators or the Virtual Console. This birthed the archetype we see in modern gaming, the indie RPG protagonist. Look at Undertale, Omori, or Lisa. They all feature protagonists who are spiritual children of Ness. They are often silent, striped shirt-wearing, blank-faced children navigating worlds that oscillate between quirky humor and psychological horror. Ness became the template for the grounded hero in a surreal world. He proved that you don't need power armor to be iconic. You just need a strong silhouette and a heavy emotional burden. Critically, Ness is often ranked as one of Nintendo's greatest protagonists, precisely because he is the antithesis of the others. Link is the hero of time, Samus is a bounty hunter, Ness is just some guy. This every boy appeal we discussed in part 1 is magnified by his reception. Critics and fans gravitate toward him because he represents the potential for heroism in the mundane. In a roster of super soldiers and dragons, the kid with the yo-yo is the one who feels most like us. This leads us to the fandom's interpretation of his personality. In game, Ness is a silent protagonist. He has no dialogue. Yet, the community has collectively agreed upon a personality profile for him. He is widely interpreted as an INFP type, introverted, intuitive, feeling, and prospecting. The fandom reads his silence not as emptiness, but as observation. He is often portrayed in fanfiction and art as the stoic heart of the group, the one who bears the psychic weight of the Gigas battle so his friends don't have to. There is a prevalent tragic reading of the character that you cannot go to war with a Lovecraftian abomination at age 13 and come back normal. This desire to fill in the blanks has led to wild theories, most infamously, the Ness is Sans from Undertale theory. While factually incorrect, the existence of such a theory proves how desperate the community is to extend Ness's narrative. They want to know what happens to the boy after the war. Does he grow up? Does he keep his powers? Or does he just go back to playing baseball? Smash Bros. Answers this by keeping him in eternal childhood. In the cultural zeitgeist, Ness is frozen at age 13. He is the Peter Pan of RPGs. While Link gets reincarnated and Mario gets rebooted, Ness is always the same boy from 1994. Ultimately, Ness's greatest achievement wasn't defeating Gigas, it was defeating obscurity. He dragged his weird, difficult, commercially failed SNES game into the spotlight by sheer force of persistence. He stood in the arena with Pikachu and Mario, took a beating for 20 years, and refused to leave until everyone knew his name. Part 6. Theories, Timelines, and What Ness Means. Metafiction, Symbolism, and Legacy. We have traced Ness's journey from a sleepy boy in the suburbs to a robot at the end of Pive. We have analyzed his moveset, his psyche, and his afterlife in Super Smash Bros. But to truly close the book on Ness, we must look at what he represents when the controller is finally put down. Ness is not just a character. He is a variable in a complex equation that spans 3 games, 30 years, and thousands of fan theories. He is the bridge between the innocence of the past and the tragedy of the future. To understand Ness's place in the timeline, we must look at the Mother Trinity. Visually, Nintendo, Ness, and Lucas are nearly identical. This is not lazy character design, it is thematic rhyming. Nintendo, the protagonist of the first game, is the progenitor. He is the one who discovers the secret of PSI and the aliens. Lucas, the protagonist of the third game, is the victim. He is the one who suffers the consequences of a world gone wrong. But Ness? Ness is the fulcrum. He exists in the golden hour of the franchise. He is the only one who achieves a definitive, uncompromised victory. Nintendo's victory is ambiguous. Gigas escapes. Lucas's victory is apocalyptic. The world is reset. Only Ness gets to go home, knock on his door, and show his mother the photo album. He represents the ideal that the series is constantly chasing, but can never quite recapture again. There is a prevalent theory in the deep lore community regarding the alien PSI curse. In Mother 1, PSI is established as an alien ability stolen by Nintendo's grandfather, George. By EarthBound, Ness is born with this power naturally. Some theorists posit that Ness is not just a random prodigy, but a metaphysical consequence of that original theft. He is the universe trying to balance the equation. If Gigas is the alien raised by humans who rejected his humanity, Ness is the human raised by humans who embraced the alien power. They are two sides of the same coin, one destroyed by love, the other empowered by it. This leads us to the darker corners of the fandom. The Ness is Gigas theory. For years, players have pointed out that the face inside the Devil's Machine resembles Ness. They argue that perhaps Gigas is a future corrupted version of Ness, or that the battle is happening inside Ness's mind. While creator Shigesato Itoi has never confirmed this, and the official timeline makes it impossible, the existence of the theory is what matters. Why do fans want Ness to be the villain? Because EarthBound is a game about the loss of innocence. The idea that the hero lives long enough to become the monster is a compelling tragedy. It speaks to the fear that growing up means losing the part of yourself that was good. However, the text refutes this. Ness does not become Gigas. He overcomes him. The face in the machine is a reflection, a warning of what happens when power is divorced from friendship. Ness looks into the mirror of absolute corruption and chooses not to blink. Let us move from conspiracy to psychology. The most powerful segment of EarthBound is not the final boss. It is the walk home. After Gigas is defeated, the game does not cut to credits immediately. He drops Ness back in his room in his pajamas. You, the player, must walk him home. This picture lap is a subversion of the RPG genre. Usually, the game ends when the dragon dies. Here, you must reintegrate Ness into society. You revisit the towns, you speak to the people you saved. This recontextualizes the entire journey. It is no longer a war story, it is a coming-of-age story. Ness left home with his mother's permission. He faced the shadow. He integrated his trauma in Magicant. And now, he returns. This follows the classic hero's journey monomyth, specifically the stage known as the Master of Two Worlds. Ness can now exist in the mundane world of Onett, but he carries the wisdom of the cosmic world. He is changed. When he knocks on the door and the photo album plays, it is an acknowledgement that childhood is a series of snapshots that you can keep, but you will never re-enter. Culturally, Ness is a time capsule. He embodies a very specific, very fleeting moment in history. The suburbs of the 1990s. His world is one of unsupervised freedom. It is a world of bike rides, arcades, and the belief that the biggest problem you'll face is the local bully. But EarthBound mixes this nostalgia with vague New Age spirituality. Telepath, pyramids, cosmic unity. This mixture mirrors the culture of the post-Cold War optimism, mixed with the rising interest in the metaphysical. Ness is the avatar of that era. He is a kid who eats burgers, but also talks to the universe. Why do people still respond to him? In an era of protagonists who are voiced by celebrities and have thousands of lines of dialogue, Ness is a vessel. He is silent. He looks uncool. He is just a kid in a striped shirt. This blankness allows him to be universal. We project our own childhood bravery onto him. We remember the time we stood up to a bully or the time we were scared of the dark, and we see Ness doing the same, but on a cosmic scale. Finally, we must look at the future. Shigesato Itoi has famously stated there will be no Mother 4. He compared the series to a playground that he built, and now the gates are locked. But he also said that the fourth game lives in the minds of the fans. This refusal to continue the canon is the greatest gift Itoi gave to Ness. By ending the story at age 13, Ness is granted immortality. He never has to grow up. He never has to pay taxes, or get divorced, or sell out. He remains eternally in the summer, of 199. Because the official story stopped, the community took ownership. Fan games, fan art, and ROM hacks have effectively written the adult Ness timeline 1,000 different ways. In some, he is a recluse. In others, he is a mentor to Lucas. But in the official canon, he's simply finished. He hung up the bat. Ness's arc is not just Kid Beats Alien. It is a thesis on memory. The game asks us to remember him not because he was the strongest or the coolest, but because he was the most human. He carried the weight of the world in a backpack alongside a cookie and a yo-yo. He represents the courage it takes to teach a child in a confusing, scary, nonsensical world. He teaches us that even if the enemy is a cosmic horror that defies comprehension, you can probably handle it as long as you have your friends, a good melody, and the courage to pick up the phone and call your dad.